Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandy, and I want you to buckle up because I'm going to tell some jokes to start off today. Oh, yeah. A man went to the doctor, and he said, every night for the past month and a half, I have dreams, and I'm wrestling donkeys. The doctor gave him some pills and said, take these, and your dreams will go away. And the man said, can I start taking them tomorrow? And the doctor said, why would you wait? And the man said, well, tonight I'm scheduled to wrestle in the championship. Wrestling is hard work, right? For some of you, maybe it's your sport. You're thinking about like being strong and having perseverance. Superheroes maybe come to mind, or movie stars. And I don't know if you heard about this, but John Cena and Superman once had an arm wrestling contest, and the loser had to wear his underwear over his pants. Oh, it's so great. That one didn't go over quite as well as the first one. Wrestling is no joke if it is your sport, so I'm not trying to poke fun, right? But it's also no joke if you have a sense that you're wrestling with your faith, or wrestling with God. You might be wrestling right now with something and you feel like maybe God is on the other end of the mat and you kind of wish he would just tap out. Or maybe you know someone who's wrestling and you wish that someone could end that match. Well, today we're going to talk about wrestling, and we're going to talk about the true rock of our salvation. No, not Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Okay, you got it. All right, so thank you. A little bit of a dad joke there at the end. We're coming to the end of our series next week, our Bless series, where we've been tracing what does blessing actually mean. It's one of those Christian words that we use a lot, but what does it actually mean? Bless you, or we wish that God would bless us. So to review, in case you haven't been here every week, we've said that God's plan from the beginning in the book of Genesis was to and is to bless people. God chose a specific family to show this blessing. God also gave us the ability, literally in our bodies, to be able to reproduce life and to flourish. And wherever we see human flourishing, reproducing, or growth, that is a sign of God's blessing, whether or not the person experiencing it acknowledges the Lord or not. For the past few weeks, we've looked at Abraham, a man God chose to bless so he would be a blessing to the nations. Also, we've seen just recently, Abraham and Sarah had a son, Isaac, who got married to Rebekah, and they had twins, Esau and Jacob. And to be honest, all of them really wrestle with God. Sometimes they win and sometimes they lose some. Sometimes, because we've been blessed by God, we distort the use of that blessing, or we distort our understanding of who God is. So today we're going to start in Genesis 32. If you have your Bibles, you can open them up. We're going to start at verse 1. It'll also be on the screen. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. So Jacob was going about his business, traveling, and the angels of God show up. I think it just creates a space for us to realize that as much as Jacob, as we're going to see, made a lot of bad decisions, there are moments where he doesn't miss what God's doing. Jacob, in fact, names this place Mahanaim and creates a space for him to worship God. The angels show up here as they have earlier when Jacob left the land. Jacob left the land. We'll get to that in a little bit, why he left. But upon entering and leaving this land, the angels show up, which is a demarcation that God is at work in this land. This is the promised land. And angels, I don't know if they're guarding it or if they're just more at work in this land, but the angels show up upon leaving it and upon re-entering it. Jacob could have taken that as a reminder that this is holy ground, that God is, in fact, at work. God has marked this land. Okay, Jacob. What do we know about Jacob? Jacob's name literally means supplanter or to supplant, which is not a word that I use ever except when I'm studying Jacob and what his name means. But Jacob, literally, the name means to take the place of another. So if I were to pull up a plant and I put another plant there, I've supplanted. I suppose that's where it comes from. Jacob, oh man, I kind of went on and on the other week about Abraham and how I had a trouble with him. I got trouble with Jacob now. Jacob is another character of deception and sometimes what not to do. One of his wives, which is also a problem that he has more than one, the wife also took an opportunity to deceive her father, lies about having her period so she can hide an idol underneath her. Really? I mean, it just kind of feels icky as I read about this. And I'm just going to say how Brian said last week, sometimes we're just like these people, aren't we? We can do icky things, we can lie, and sometimes we too are ashamed and can do awful things. Other times, we look great, like, look, a camp of the Lord, and create a space of worship like Jacob. Well, Jacob goes to the Lord in prayer in verse 9. O God of my father Abraham, next slide, maybe. O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who have said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I only had my staff when I crossed this Jordan, and now I've become two camps. So when I left, all I had was this stick in the ground, and now I have two huge groups of people that create two camps. Save me, he says in verse 11, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I'm afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. He will leave no survivors. But you have said, God, I will surely make you prosper, and I will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted. So I don't know if you listen to pop music, but Jelly Roll has a song out, and it's called I Need a Favor. Have you heard this song? I'm going to put some of the lyrics on the screen. Bad words are edited. Nobody freak out, okay? If you're online, you can Google it if you wish. I know amazing grace, but I ain't been living them words. Swear I spend most Sundays drunk off my beep than I have in church. Hardcover King James only been saving dust on the nightstand. Anyone feel that? Yep. And I don't know what to say by the time I fold my hands. I only talk to God when I need a favor, and I only pray when I ain't got a prayer. So who I am, beep, beep, to expect a savior. Anyone know this song? I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, dang, I actually love this song. The words are getting to me. Jacob and Jelly Roll on the same page. Who knew? Both of them have this sense of being unworthy. When Jacob says this, I am unworthy, that word literally means like small or insignificant. I am nobody, and yet I'm going to come to the God of creation. I don't deserve a thing. I can't even protect my people. These two camps, I am scared. Have you ever felt like Jelly Roll or Jacob? Gosh, God, it feels like every time I'm talking to you, it's only because I'm in trouble. I'm sorry. But I still really need help. I'm still going to go ahead and pray. Jacob was all too and not enough and never and too much of the other things and didn't know much. And yet, God, Jacob knew where to go when he needed a blessing. Now, why is Jacob afraid of his twin brother? If some of you are good Bible scholars, you could tell us the story. Jacob not only has run away from his brother, but way back, he stole his brother's birthright. So the brothers, they're twins, but Esau actually came out of the womb first. And so he was getting all of it was planned that he would get all of the honor and all of the benefits that come with being the firstborn. However, Jacob weaseled his way, and with mom's help, gets not just his birthright, but a blessing that Isaac had specifically for the firstborn. And Jacob pretends to be his brother because his dad's blind, and Jacob ends up with it. Well, when the brother finds out, he's super mad, and he says, I'm going to murder my brother. Well, the mom, Rebecca, finds out about this plan and says, dude, you got to get out of town. Your brother's pretty peeved. So Jacob's been gone, living with Rebekah's brother for a long time, long enough to have gotten married, have children, and create these two camps that we're talking about. And now he's coming home, and he is nervous. What is brother going to do now that I'm back? So we'll go on to verse 23. After Jacob had sent them across the stream, he sent over the two camps and all of his possessions. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower Jacob, the man touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. And then the man said, "Let me go. It's about daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I'm not letting you go unless you bless me." The study about blessing, Jacob and Esau's wrestling with the blessing, really made me wonder, how far are people willing to go for this blessing? And if so, why? I don't hear people talking about this these days. Well, I'm fighting with my brother for my parents' blessing. Or I'm just hoping to get a blessing today. We just don't talk like this, but for some reason in the Bible, it's very important. And not just Jacob, but his mom is willing to go to great lengths, lie, cheat, and steal to get this blessing. That makes me think the blessing's awfully important. It's worth immoral behavior to try to get it. Now that blows my mind, because then you think like, well, by doing that, doesn't it sort of negate the blessing coming to you? Apparently in the Bible it doesn't. Because a lot of them do a lot of bad things, and yet God, blessing. We don't want it to be like this. We only want like the Superman John Cena. I don't know what happened there. But we want the good guys to win, right? Regardless of where they wear their underwear. We want the good guys to get the blessing, and we want the bad guys not to. We want it to be super clear, don't we? Good, bad. And yet, God is like blessing, oh man, these people. The opposite of blessing, what is that? If I'm not blessed by God, what does that feel like? Well, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking it's like unrest. If I don't have someone's blessing, there's a breaking of the relationship. There's that sick feeling in your stomach when you don't sense that blessing, whether it's from God or someone else. So it made me think about when I was having the sense from the Lord when we lived in Duluth that we were about to go through something different. And it was about in January, and I just had this sense, we're going to move soon. There was no reason to think this. We loved our life in Duluth. It's beautiful. It's where everyone vacations. We'd be driving south and everyone would be going up and we'd laugh at them. And then we'd be driving home and all the traffic's coming south and we were like, that's right, suckers, we live up here. That's how it felt. We were living in a paradise. Well, I was sure God was going to call us away. This was months before I knew it was Mankato and it was going to be church planting. And I finally said it out loud, which was scary because then that meant this is probably true. And I said it to my friend Rebecca. No relation to Jacob's mom, Rebecca, who weaseled for the blessing. But they did spell the name the same way. My good friend Rebecca, and I said to her, I have this sense. And Rebecca said, well, I'm not very happy about this. But whatever it is, I'm going to bless you as you follow God. Just knowing that she was on our team and on my side as we went through all that we did made a huge difference. So much so that when we moved down here, her little girl, Claire, and Rebecca came and helped us unpack and stayed a night or two. And man, I kept it together pretty okay, but when Rebecca and Claire left that day, that's when I started to cry. Also, I texted this to Miss Rebecca and I said, hey, is it okay if I share this story? And she said, of course, you have my blessing. Meanwhile, back at wrestling camp in verse 27, the man asked Jacob, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Then he blessed them there. Oh, Jacob said, please tell me your name. And the man said, why do you ask my name? And then the man blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, it is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. Well, the big question is, right? who's this man? Is this like Jesus, pre-birth of Jesus? Is this an angel? Who is this? Well, when I think about who struggles with Jacob, who gives people new names, and who does the blessing so far in the book of Genesis, it's God. Jacob himself says, I saw God face to face, and yet my life has been spared. This is the God who chose Abraham and Sarah, the one who gave baby Isaac, the one who gave Isaac twins. The God who wrestled with Jacob. And the God who Jacob hung on to and said, I'm not letting go until I get a blessing. This is the God that I think we are also invited to wrestle with, or perhaps is already wrestling with us. Marriage, finances, politics, your schedule, your sleep, your health, or someone else's relationship with God or lack thereof. I don't know why this happens. This is to me one of those stories in the Bible where I'm like, really? You're wrestling with someone? What? Sometimes you just don't show up for people. Other times people are asking questions and it feels like there's just this abyss. And then other times literally wrestling with Jacob. Jacob was in line to receive the blessing. He's a direct descendant from Abraham and Sarah. But now he is added to the list of those who have seen God face to face. And I wish I could tell you Jacob's life was different after this. He just did great. He made all the right decisions. His marriage was happier. His kids were, well, if you, again, want to read an interesting story, read the book of Genesis. And if your young children are going to read it, perhaps edit it a little bit. But God, even in the midst of all of this, blesses Jacob. And God saw Jacob, and Jacob saw God face to face. I think that would be worth a wrestle. Is that worth a wrestle? To see God face to face. So I was trying to think about what does this look like in our everyday life, right? And I thought about this story, one of my favorite stories, just reread it this past summer, about Louis Zamperini, the story Unbroken. It is a book and a movie if you don't want to read the book, but I highly recommend the book. Louis Zamperini was the son of Italian immigrants. He spoke Italian, and then they sent him to public school at age 9, and he had to make his way. He, not surprisingly, was quite a troublemaker as a youth. He grew up to be an Olympian who, out of all of the crowd of Olympians from the United States, Hitler chose to shake his hand. He became a service member. Eventually, he was stranded on a raft after his plane crashed. And he somehow, this blows my mind. He somehow managed to stay alive for 47 days on a raft with one other person. He punched sharks. He somehow managed to capture birds. And that is how they survived. However, once he was off the raft, when he landed on land, he entered enemy territory and spent 2.5 years being tortured in a camp. He came home free? Not really. He was so messed up from all of that trauma. He turned to drinking, leaving his wife for hours at a time, and was broken in every way possible. Well, his wife, instead of leaving him, divorcing him, finding a better life, which no one would have blamed her for, she turned to Jesus and somehow ended up at Billy Graham meetings out in California. And after a few days of pestering Louis to come to the meetings, and even though Billy Graham was supposed to have left Los Angeles at the time, for whatever reason, Billy spent a few more days, and Louis finally said, fine, I'll go. And as he sat there listening, I have this on a slide. During that sermon, Zamperini had an epiphany. I momentarily flashed to the life raft in the Pacific. The moment when I prayed to God that if he had spared my life, 47 days, you're floating on a raft, right? You're praying, God, I need a favor, right? Okay? I prayed to God that if he spared my life and that if I dedicated it to service and prayer, you know all those prayers and promises you make when you're in a jam. I realized then that I'd turned my back on my promises and on God. When I got off my knees that day in the tent in LA, I knew I would be through with drinking, smoking, and revenge fantasies. I haven't had a nightmare since. You see, Zamperini had nightmares about one guard in particular in his prison camp. And he regularly thought and plotted, how can I get revenge? Well, once he came to know Jesus, he pursued those prison guards and found them and regularly would meet with them. And instead of getting revenge, he would hug them and extend forgiveness to them. So his friend that was on the raft unfortunately lost part of his leg, but somehow those men survived. This is the God that we wrestle with. A God who would not give up on someone like Zamperini, would not give up on someone like Jacob, and doesn't give up on somebody like me or you or your friends, the ones that you think maybe are impossible to reach. God can handle our questions, the lack of answers, the frustrations, the tears, the swearing, the walking away from. God can handle all of that. Sometimes we have moments where we sense like, oh, I do think like I saw God face to face in that moment. And other times there's just nothing. What does it look like to wrestle with God? I hope that this is a church where we're wrestling, where you feel comfortable to wrestle, where if you have friends who have wrestled, they're welcome. If you yourselves are wrestling with God and you're not in a small group, or if you're not in some sort of face-to-face relationship that includes you who maybe are only online, come on in so we can see you face-to-face. Invite them, wrestle, take that next step. We have free Bibles at the back, people who would love to talk with you. Read your Bible. We're giving away some Bibles, about a dozen to youth. Don't just let them sit on your shelf getting dust. Read them. Read these stories. What the heck, God? Wrestling? What is with these men and their wives? What are with these women lying? And then when we are blessed, would we pass it on to others, our friends who are wrestling with God? Would we continue to pray for them? We've been putting their names down, putting them on the cross. We've been praying for them. Would we listen with care, not having an agenda, not trying to change their mind, just listening? Would we eat together? Would we have fun together? Go get coffee. Take some advantage of this weather and go for walks with them. Would you serve together? Go to the Feed My Starving Children this week and don't do it by yourself. Bring that family next door. Bring that friend. And eventually pray for an opportunity to share your story. I'm going to invite the worship team back up. Jacob and Esau had a broken, fractured relationship because Jacob also would not forgive his brother. Esau didn't forgive his brother because Jacob had run away, didn't even know, didn't even have a chance to forgive him. It led to separation between those two brothers for years. You can read what happens next for them. Also, we're going to sing a song right now about the promises of God. Whether you have forgiveness you need to extend, whether you yourselves feel like, I just don't know if I really believe God. Is this God? I don't know if I believe it. These words, there are some of us here who do believe it. And we can believe for you today. We'd love for you to continue to be part of our group of believers who do wrestle with God. Some of us believe, some of us don't. But the words, oh man, they're just so good. And as we try to follow Jesus and think about those who are out there who are wrestling that don't have that promise, would we continue to be a blessing to them? Amen.